Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A, just filming a mid-September garden tour. Can't believe it's already mid-September. Where does the time go? In the summer, it always flies by so fast. But things are doing good. We had kind of a dry period. Haven't had rain in probably over a week. And not a whole lot forecast, I don't think. Maybe, I don't remember what it said. Maybe a little bit, but certainly not what we had earlier this summer. We were 5.5 inches over our average rainfall in like June, July, August, or May through August or something. So grass never went dormant. It looks beautiful. Some things rotted, some things loved it. That is Rainbow's End hosta. I see we've got the, what are those big spiders called that make those crazy webs? They kind of come out late summer. So I see kind of spider webs all over the place. Same thing with this variegated brunnera. But I'll leave them be because the mosquitoes have been horrific. So they can just eat all the bugs they want. That variegated brunnera is one of the nicest looking brunneras in my garden this year. I had a few rot because of all the rain. And this whole area back here was newly planted hostas last summer. I may sprinkle the Bobo hydrangeas over here just because I transplanted them last fall. So they're still kind of establishing root systems this year. And this area tends to be drier because of these giant arbovita here. Their arbs are very thirsty and have shallow roots. So this spot kind of came out looking a little bit wild. The Hoopla Vivid Orchid Supertunia is coming back. Oh, look at that. We've got like a white one in there too, white bloom. But I cut that back hard because it got pretty leggy. This is the first time I've grown this silver, what's it called? Silver shield plectranthus, and holy cow, that is the biggest plectranthus I have grown ever. That thing is a monster. So don't know if I'll do that next year because it's kind of a lot to keep up with, although it is very beautiful. And as I said, this Golden Delicious, rockin' Golden Delicious coleus, no, salvia, it gets monstrous. Don't believe the tag on the size, it gets huge. And it looks like it's fixing to put out some bloom stalks, but last year we got frost before the blooms opened because our season is too short for this particular one to bloom. So we'll walk back through here. I have been working on cutting out some of the grass from this area, cutting some edges, trying to get rid of some weeds. I unearthed a whole bunch of rocks and some of these old like pavers that were under here. Well, I could only see a little portion of one. I didn't know there were going to be that many. Looks like something seeded over here in this freshly dug area. Curious to see what seeded itself. But otherwise things are looking pretty good. We tend to get some weeds here, but I really like this. I just waited till impatiens went on clearance and kind of popped them in here in bare spots with the Pachysandra, and they did really good. So I'll do that again. But this area got a lot of extra sun, and that particular hosta, as you can tell, did not like the extra sun one bit. It is all crispy. But these bronze leaf begonias did awesome. If you're planting begonias, bronze leaf varieties tend to be more sun tolerant. They can do full sun or close to it. They're your basic wax begonias, the cheap ones that you buy in like a multi-pack. And they've gotten full sun all summer and done great. They also do great in the shade. I have planted green leaf begonias, even ones that say they can take full sun with the green leaves, and they always look kind of, they end up bronzing out, but not in a pleasant way. So I always recommend that. This planter, I had to kind of stake up this Persian shield because it got kind of whipped around in that big storm we had. Looks like a couple another branch maybe cracked. These are looking pretty wilty. Oh, yep, that center branch cracked. That's okay. It's the end of the season. I thoroughly enjoyed this planter. It did very well here. And so did my little impromptu annuals area on this side. I have been collecting some seed heads from these Rudbeckia. These are annual Rudbeckia. This is the caramel mix. And they have just been done so great. I have heard that they will self-seed, so I may just let some go to seed here as well as we get later in the season. But otherwise, this was all like extra. Some things I started from seed, like this Dalmatian cream foxglove. They're putting on now a second bloom. I did collect the seed heads so that I can have some seeds for next year. Probably still have some left in the packet, but otherwise it's like clearance stuff. I had some extra cannas. That's the toucan orange canna and the canna pretoria there. I always save the rhizomes. I end up having lots of extra starts. I give a lot of them away too. But like this angelonia, some of the other stuff in here, I just wait till clearance. Same thing with this beautiful Sedona Sunset Coleus. There's 3 of them here. Just once things start going 50 or 75% off, I like to have spots open where I can trying to say 2 words at once and my brain isn't working. Plunk them in. I was trying to say plunk and plop. So yeah, this is a work in progress. Been working on digging out the grass. I've got to-do list to transplant some things back here and mulch and put down cardboard too. That acts as a good weed barrier. So otherwise, things are looking healthy. Go back up here. Really love this torchlight coleus. I think that's a Proven Winners variety. Well, it was in a Proven Winners can, but I think it's their like proprietary variety. So I'll be looking for that again. Oh, I see some weeds back there I need to get. This poor viburnum is looking kind of beat up this year. Got hit by viburnum. Insects have been an issue, I think, because of the rain, so that could be it. But this Persian shield, I planted 3 of them in here because I have some heuchera that did not survive winter or were looking really ratty. And that did well too, so good to know. And then this ageratum, I always will plant that because it does so well in the ground. And this dry out has really helped the geraniums that I have planted as well. These are the Americana salmon. And then this is just a QIS purple gomphrena. I start those from seed. Oh, look, I got blooms on my mum about to open. This is tiny compared to previous years. We had a warm winter, but snowless winter. So some things did fine and others really suffered. We still did. It wasn't as cold as normal for as long as normal, but we still got down below 0 for a good week. So without insulation, some things do not do great. But this patch of Hydrangeas is looking good. I did weed whip last night, so I didn't clean up after myself here on the edges. This is another gomphrena I really like. This one is Atomic Purple, also started from seed. New one. But yeah, a lot of things kind of done blooming. This opening act phlox just keeps going and going. It'll kind of lull and then put out another flush of blooms, then lull, then put out another flush of blooms. So really like that. Got some Nepeta. This is the Limelight Prime Hydrangea. I did transplant this. It's looking a little dry. You can tell when the leaves kind of point down on hydrangeas. That means they're a little bit dry. So I probably will sprinkle in here. I'll check the forecast, make sure we're not supposed to get a downpour or something. I'll probably sprinkle some of this stuff, just especially the transplanted stuff, because it just doesn't have an established root system yet, which is why it kind of defoliated in the center there. But they're such tough plants. I have no doubt it will be just fine. Rockin' Playing the Blues Salvia. I have 2 of them in here. Started kind of late, probably mid-July. So not as full as if I had gotten them in the ground in June, maybe. But I had to transplant this hydrangea, and then I planted this blue juniper that you can see just beyond these coleus. That is a Troutman juniper. Gets like up to 15 feet tall and only 2 to 4 feet wide. And I like that I like the branch structure because I think it's easy to trim to keep it in a, looks like somebody was scratching off needles on that side. Anyway, to keep it in a narrow form. And these are my favorite heucherella. I have 6 of them, I think, in my garden. These are the sweet tea heucherella. Kind of a classic, but they have just been through thick and thin. They can take almost full sun, probably not full sun, but they can take a good amount of sun or full shade. So, and then this is a chokeberry that I am letting, an aronia, I'm just kind of letting establish. That was newly planted last year. But, and I think I will probably dig out this is a Tor birchleaf spirea, and ever since I got it, it has had issues with fungal disease. I don't know, I'm undecided. Maybe I'll leave it for one more year. This was the place it was before. It didn't get a lot of airflow, so that's one cause. This year we got so much rain and moisture and humidity, so I don't know, maybe I should give it one more year. But I just, you know, I don't want a defoliated plant in my garden every year, so kind of want to plant something lime green in there anyways, or chartreuse. We've got another third flush of blooms starting on this rose. This is the peach drift rose. But you can see it's all full of buds here. So it blooms kind of early summer and then mid-August. Really beautiful bloom color. They get kind of polka dotted as they age. Yeah, just shrub roses are real tough, which is why I selected this one. I will need to move this veronica though, because this rose has grown faster than I thought it would, which is good. The bunnies ate it down to like a little nub over the winter, so I was worried, but nope, came back and got even bigger. Lemon jade sedum, about to open. That was newly planted last fall. Doesn't get as much sun probably here because it's shaded by these when they're full. Noblesse yarrow, it just keeps blooming and blooming. I did trim some of the brown blooms. I just haven't kept up with it the last couple weeks. But once the blooms start to brown out, I just come and give it kind of a haircut and chop it off, and it just sprouts new blooms all over the place. This echinacea got a little stressed this year, so I might just cut it down. Usually I let echinacea stay up in the winter. I let the seed heads stay up for the goldfinches to eat. But if there are signs like this one kind of looks like maybe it got a little disease because it's all defoliated, which is not normal. So pruning and getting rid of like any diseased foliage, or if there were insect issues like mites, which can affect echinacea. Usually I'll do that in the fall so that it doesn't just overwinter for the next year in the soil. Probably clean up any fallen leaves from the soil around it as well. The other ones back there are looking healthy. It's just this one in front that looks kind of bare. The Dark Towers sedum, or no, Night Ember sedum, looking beautiful. It's kind of at the end of its bloom cycle now, but the blooms are more pink when they're in full bloom, and it's just loaded with bees in full bloom. But I like this kind that they turn kind of a darker red too when they're done blooming. This is the opalescent phlox. You can tell by the leaves. I think it had fungal issues again just because it was such a wet and humid year. But this is like performed better than any other phlox this year. So I will cut this one back as well, just to any spores that are on the leaves. I don't want those to drop and just stay in the soil for next year. My little amethyst treasure zinnia is doing great. I've grown these from seed for many years now. They're just nice compact plants and really strong branches too. So love that bright purple color. We've got these self-seeded 4 o'clocks here. You can see the little, I can collect more seeds, although I still have tons from last year, but they look like little grenades almost, like the shape of these seeds. And I just soak them before planting. I'll put it there and it can self-seed for next year. And then this is a new to me plant. I got a bunch of them on clearance to try out. Diacia or Diacia. I don't know how it's pronounced, but that one did really good. That's pretty. And then the aster is really starting to, this is the last thing to bloom. Fall aster, it gets so massive. I cut it back hard and I keep trimming it back all summer up until about the 4th of July or so. And then I let it go because then you risk just trimming off blooms for that year. It'll just be covered in these pretty like purpley blue blooms with the yellow center. Very cheerful. Nice to have some bloom color back here after everything is done. That was unlabeled, so I'm not sure what variety it was. I just bought it. I could tell it was an aster with purple or blue blooms. So maybe woods blue or woods purple or something like that, comparing it to other varieties like that. And then behind that is the hardy hibiscus summerific holy grail. It is past its blooms now. Those buds are actually seed pods forming at the top of the branches, I think, unless it's putting out another bloom. It didn't last year, though. It just formed seed pods. I would love it if it put on some more blooms, though. Beautiful, sort of bright, like bluish red. Big, huge blooms on that. That did really well. And then the grass there is Shenandoah switchgrass, native cultivar. Cosmos this year, I mean, they grew really big. These were self-seeded. I had no luck. I only got maybe a couple to seed start in trays this year. I had another one in the middle. There's an empty stake, but that they all blew over in the windstorm. Well, it was a thunderstorm with strong winds that we got a few weeks ago. So I staked them up, but I think that one died or got broken or something. So some blooms, but these have really not been prolific this year, which is a bummer. So, and then of course my dahlias that I dug up a few weeks ago from this area. I might be able to save the tubers. I put them in pots and they're doing well in the pots. They're recovering. So I don't expect blooms, but I was hoping at least I would have a little bit of a tuber to save. But because of the rain, they just rotted out. This is also, it has an issue with voles in this area. And the soil is not great quality. So I won't plant dahlias here next year. But these, I got a bunch of these. Everything's kind of pink. It worked out. Just got a bunch of stuff on clearance, threw some seeded things in here. It's funny, this amaranth is supposed to be like maybe 3 feet tall, but it only stayed about, I don't know, 8 inches tall this year. It was just so wet early on. I mean, it has these cool tassels. Anyway, that was started from seed, so not a big deal, and I still have plenty of seeds for next year. And then the few zinnias that I got to, this one is really pretty. I think that was from a mix. And it's kind of going over now, you can see, but it was just this huge fluffy bloom. I love that kind of bright pink. So anyway, I'm gonna rethink this area next year. So I just plunked like the sun patiens, because those are very thirsty plants, so they don't mind all the rain, all the moisture in this soil. And then did some other things in pots from clearance plants. So, you know, turns out a hyacinth bean vine self-seeded itself and then climbed up these poles that I stored here. So things just work out sometimes. Vegetable garden is doing really well. Oops, didn't mean to zoom. Got a few more harvested beans to get to. Strawberries I'm going to be digging up. I'll have to give a ton of these away, but I got 2 round raised beds that match these green Vago beds. Vago? I don't remember. So that I can grow my strawberries in there and not on the ground, because I do not like crawling around on the ground to harvest strawberries. But these marigolds I kind of had to stake up a little bit because they were tipping over everything. But this was where I had my garlic, beans, and lettuce. I've got a couple more lettuce to harvest. But after I harvested garlic, I planted some seed-started marigolds and then other just clearance plants in here to fill it up. So I think that's a good strategy because I very much enjoy that. By the time the garlic is harvested, it's end of July. And it's just kind of too late to really start much unless I had it going from way earlier as seeds. But I don't know, that's a lot of work. Other than lettuce, I can do that. So now it's just a burst of color. Love these. This is the Americana coral geranium. I don't remember what these lobularia are. I wonder if I left the tag in here. Oh yeah, but these did great. These alyssum. Purple Stream is this one, and then there's one called White Stream. These things were all 75% off, kind of end of July. So I just go see what I can find and pop it in here. Same thing with all the marigolds. I did have one cabbage do well, but again, all my vegetables failed over here because it was so wet and the soil is not great. So I'll be working on that next year. But I just threw in some clearance plants. Pea pods are done, some more clearance plants. I'm surprised the salvia is pink. I thought it was going to be red, but oh well, it's pretty. And it was on clearance. So, and I really like this Emerald Tower. This is called Emerald Towers Basil. I started these from seed. Basil's really easy to start from seed, at least in my experience. But it hasn't bloomed yet, and I've actually barely cut any of it, and it just stays very compact and upright and much more full than your traditional like Italian basil, Genovese basil. So this nasturtium is something peach. I started that from seed too. Not a good year for peppers, just so cold and rainy. I've gotten a few harvested now and been eating them. Earwigs have just been crazy this year. Oh, this is the white stream lobularia. Same as that purple one. They'll like chew a little hole in the side of the fruit, and I won't notice it. And so I'll have this like, here, I need to cut this off. This is actually kind of a big hole. You see that hole right there in the pepper? Hopefully it's focusing. That's what earwigs do. They chew a little hole and then they just go and live in there. And so I'll have this beautiful ripe pepper, and some of them, the holes are so tiny I can't even see them, or they're hidden in like a crevice. And then I'll cut it open and there's all these earwigs in there and it's all nasty inside. So, ugh, they're just creepy little critters. So this year has been real. I've never had a problem with earwigs. Actually, I put these pots on the stakes because A, I think they're cute, but also I have come close to poking my own eye on the stake a couple times. I should move this. That one's pot fell down. When I lean over to harvest stuff, because I'm not really paying attention to it. So I started putting pots in there to keep myself from poking my eye on the stake. But you can use those as earwig bait as well if you fill them with kind of damp straw or leaves or something. Then you can come out with soapy water and dump everything into the water, because that's where earwigs like to hide. They like to nest in those types of areas, so maybe I'll try that next year. Beautiful calliope dark red geranium, kind of that deep scarlet red, more of a blue tone, cool tone red here. I also, as you notice, plant marigolds with all my peppers. Some of these were just planted from clearance, so they're not looking as big and pretty. We've got, look how huge this is. This was planted late too from clearance. Pink cashmere superbena, or cashmere pink, new one for this year. So I'll be looking for that next year and probably planting it with like a darker, brighter color, because I like a little bit brighter, bolder colors personally. A couple more of the Rockin' Plain Blue Salvia. This was, again, I had garlic here, and so I harvested that. I have tons of weeds here, though, that I'm going to have to control. I had some these poor things just got eaten up. I had those started from seed. They were just extras. So I filled in the space. I think the budworms have left this planter, hopefully. This is the Americana dark red, which is more, this is my favorite red, though. This kind of like orangey red. So these were covered. I took off all the blooms. And it seems the budworms have finally left. Yay. Okay, can you hear that blue jay? Man, those suckers are loud. We've got some Bergarten sage, couple kinds of rosemary in here. I always harvest this before we get a frost. I'll come and cut everything. The sage, I'll use some of it fresh, but then I usually dry some of it. Rosemary freezes really well, so what I don't use up in a few weeks, I'll put in the freezer and use that up all winter. So, tip for you. Oh my gosh. Will you shush? Carrots doing great. I'll harvest those before frost. I just let them get nice and big. I don't think they got as big this year, but you can see my kitty proofing for when I was seeding these. They were using it as a litter box. Potatoes are done. Going to harvest those today. Zinnias looking good. These zinnias I started from seed. Those are all varieties of Zahara, another nice smaller one that stays compact and full. And then I had a huge blue angelonia in here, and 2 huge center branches broke out in the storm. So I bought some clearance ones and plunked them in, so it's looking a little sparse, but better than a gaping hole, I guess. This is an annual salvia, rockin' purple maybe, unplugged purple, and then there's an unplugged pink back there. There's some Siberian iris, and then this is the sage leaf willow, which loved the rain this year. Willows like a lot of water. And I have some perennial salvia here, back to the fuchsia, blooms in June. Beautiful pink, really full of blooms, and it blooms for a long time, but it doesn't rebloom, so I just cut it back. And now I think I'll, along with this nepido, once I cut these, all kind of get cut back at the same time, then I have all this open space in here. So I start looking for clearance plants and plop them in. We've got a yarrow back there that was second bloom now, and then some, look at all this weedy grass. This is what I need to do in the fall and spring, is get out here. Then the variegated plants, white and green, are plectranthus, like a candlestick. And then some strawberry drop coleus, a couple of them planted in here. You can see I have a squash. It was planted here by I don't know what, a squirrel or a bird. Some seed fell, and I was going to pull it up, but these 2 heuchera really died back. Looks like berry smoothie is, this is a pretty tough one too. Berry smoothie is a classic and pretty tough. It is resprouting, so I'm hoping that will come back next year. I think that one's dead. That was a different purple variety, so I think I will dig that one out. But anyway, because of that, I just let the squash vine grow. It will not fruit because it started way too late in the season. Our season is too short for that, but you know, whatever. Sun King Aurelia blooming. I said this in my last video. I don't know if I'm going crazy. I swear this thing blooms in the spring too. Maybe I got it backwards though, but I could swear I remember blooms in spring. This thing. Now it's blooming again. But it's these kind of cute little firework looking flowers, like big exploding fireworks, or tiny exploding fireworks rather. This is a classic limelight hydrangea back there. All the hydrangeas got pretty weighed down. That is not typical of the panicle hydrangea varieties that I have, but so much rain and heavy rainstorm this summer. But even then, they're not, I wouldn't say they're flopping, they're just weighed down a little bit, but starting to get its pink color. Same thing with the little lime over here. You can see that giant oak tree is still down in my neighbor's yard, the center of their branch. So I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with that, but man, it was such a bummer that came down. Oak is so heavy too, so anyway. Otherwise, things looking maybe a little bit tired here from the rain and the just summer. Lady fern looking pretty. I always leave these stilby blooms. You can see those kind of golden poofs there next to that weedy plant behind the fern. But I like these stilby blooms. And I am super excited. My All That Glitters or All That Glows viburnum, I can't remember which one this is, bloomed heavily this year. And I didn't think it was going to get pollinated, but it did by something. And now I have blueberries on my viburnum for the first time. And I love that dark glossy leaf on this plant as well. Otherwise, I planted a little clearance coleus in here. We've got a hellebore. I think that one is a wedding series. It's like a deep burgundy bloom. I can't remember the name of it. We're going to ignore designer Jean's hosta. I should just hack that whole thing back better than it does now. Crested surf, Japanese painted fern, did great. Very impressed by this Jacob ladder. Don't remember the variety. Beautiful foliage, did amazing. And then this is a velveteen coleus. Also did well. Would get humongous if it got full sun, but here it's in mostly shade. And you can see probably the saddest things I'm saddest about, these little heucherella here. Normally such tough plants, but just died away. So I'm going to leave them in the hopes this one's kind of sprouting some little new growth. This one, there's like one little leaf, so I'm just going to see what happens in the spring. Such a bummer, but I grabbed some clearance plants for like $1 or $2 a piece and just threw them in here. Just because I did cut a bunch of branches from the little lime hydrangeas. Oh, dog going number 2. We won't film that. And the firelights. You can see this dark raspberry color that they turn, and then they kind of start going papery. This is the perfect time. Oh, you can see this spider web. I don't know if you can see it here, but wow. And they're not, we don't have venomous spiders here in Minnesota. We have, you know, negative 30 degrees, but not venomous spiders. So they're just pest control. And these 2 geranium here did amazing. They got humongous Americana salmon. Anyway, firelight hydrangeas, deep raspberry color. This one over here definitely flopped more than the other one. So I just cut some of the weighed down branches. I got 2 big bucketfuls to make some bouquets. Otherwise, they're doing great, and they're getting to be mature size right now. So I'm happy about that. This oregano also didn't like. Oregano is very drought tolerant. This is Drops of Jupiter ornamental oregano. I have 3 of them in here. This one is 2 years old. These were just planted last summer. I'll have to divide them next year. They kind of defoliated in the center, but you can see, look at that fresh growth down there coming up. But they just keep blooming. And then when the blooms are spent, like the spent blooms just stay this dark purple. So I like this plant. It is, I mean, I don't touch it other than to cut it back in the fall. It is so low maintenance and just super tolerant. More Americana salmon geranium. We've got another flush of blooms. Maybe we had a bunny, looks like, coming here chomping off my blooms. I haven't seen a bunny around in about a month, but it looks like we've got somebody snacking on my plants here. On this Nemesia. Oh, I can smell it just by brushing it. It's so sweet smelling. There's another Diacia back there, white one. We've got some James Britannia. I have grown this a few times. Maybe I just don't have the right soil conditions for it. There's one over there too. I bought them on clearance to test them out, but it has never grown well for me, even in a full sun situation like this. So I think I'm done trying that one. I think maybe as a mono, I've also had them mixed in a planter, but they got overpowered by everything else in the container. So maybe if you had them in a hanging basket that really drains well and dries out, as just the only plant in that basket, they might do well. I don't know. This one's so pretty though. This is another Diacia in this pink color. Just one of them there. And I love the foliage color. I'm really liking the Boom Chocolata geranium. Hardy geranium. Foliage color is gorgeous. Nice sort of mounded shape. It'll get a lot bigger than this, I know. But it bloomed for like half the summer as well. It just kept putting out blooms. So we've got some snapdragons here. You can see the seed heads from the Millennium Allium. Those stay up all winter, as do the seed heads from the Bee Balm Monarda. Blooms earlier in the summer, and I will leave this Helenium up too. This one is really long blooming. I'm kind of impressed by that. That was an impulse clearance purchase, and I'm glad I got it. And another plant was there and happened to die. So, you know, those are the things that are just kind of meant to be. You can see my poor little northwind switchgrass there getting knocked over. I do have to put a cage around it because it doesn't get enough sun to stay upright. I love that blue foliage though. But it's definitely getting encroached on by this strawberry daiquiri dogwood. And I'm letting that echinacea over here go to seed so the birds can eat it. I do trim early on. I'll deadhead just so it keeps putting out new blooms, but now we're so late in the season that I just kind of let it go. We're kind of back over to this side, but I have 3 more sweet tea heucherella in here, and then this Halcyon hosta that got enormous. It did get, so without the spruce trees It got full sun this year. Didn't get burned, but it's not really blue anymore. It burned off. The blue is like a waxy coating, and it'll get burned off by the sun. But so it goes. Eventually I'll have a tree that will cast shade again. And then we have, let's see, that one is stained glass on the left, that hosta with one little bloom stalk I need to trim next to the shroom. We have a little rocket ligularia that is looking past its prime, and a June hosta. I really like the color on the June hosta. That really pops there in the shade. And then a green Hakanakloa. I think this is just your basic, man, it gets big though. It's just one plant. Basic Hakanakloa. And some weeds and autumn frost sedum. Also got full sun this year, but didn't do too bad. I did trim off some of the more crispy looking leaves. Let's see. Oh, and this Weigela put out a second bloom, which is now just about done. Hummingbirds love these Weigela flowers. They love this. They love the 4 o'clocks. I see them visiting many things back here. I can go look around this side. I think I'm going to do a separate video here of the container garden, the patio garden. But this sedum, I just kind of trimmed up all the grass. I forget, this is a rock and round sedum from Proven Winners. I forget the variety. Pop Star, maybe, I think, if that's one. Really pretty bright pink flowers. Does not get full sun here. Gets a good amount of sun early in the season. 2 GM that are just kind of bulletproof. Lots of weeds growing through the fence. Just can't keep up with it this year. Other patchy stuff. The kittens, feral kittens that were living in the garden, wreaked havoc on many plants, like this fern. Just rolled around and wrestled the end down in there. Must have been comfy, but I've got some hosta damage, but that's okay. I don't mind. We did manage to get them onto the porch. They came of their own accord, led by the socialized braver kitten. And we are caring for them now on the porch, and we'll be trying to find homes. I may be adopting one. We don't know. I am allergic to cats, so I'm not sure if that is a good idea. But anyway, that is latest in kitten saga, feral kitten saga. I have 3 Kiloni turtlehead over here. This one always just seems to struggle. I don't know if it's just a bad spot. Maybe it gets more sun or less sun. I'm not sure. It did get trampled one year and had to sprout fresh, so I'm hoping over time it will catch up. Otherwise, we've got 2 on this side, turtlehead, and you can kind of see maybe why they're called turtlehead. The blooms kind of look like little turtle heads. But it is also called Kiloni. And it's really fun to see the bumblebees because they like to just get in, they like shove their little chubby, furry little bodies in there. But that's also late summer bloomer, one of the last things to bloom in the garden. The honeysuckle, doing good. I'm hoping, oh, maybe I can spray one more time with some neem oil and finally get rid of this aphid infestation. I did spray before, and it was definitely effective on the aphids, but a plant this huge, it's not possible to get every single leaf front and back. So much less trouble than it was last year. Rock and Grow, Back in Black sedum up here, doing great. Also past its main bloom, but attractive spent bloom heads as well. This kind of split open. This one looks a little wonky. It does get full sun, although later in the season everything gets less sun because it is lower in the sky. But that got big fast. And then we've got some things tipped over. This is a big old 4 o'clock with the pink, bright, hot pink blooms here, chartreuse foliage. That kind of tipped over in the storm, and I'm out of stakes to move it back, so it's kind of smushing that section of Rudbeckia, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. And the spider plant, what is this called? Cleome Miss, what's it called? I'm forgetting the name. It's a Proven Winners one. Cleome. The flowers look really pretty. I wouldn't plant that as a main plant. I would want it to hide behind something though, I think. But I do like it in there. I've kind of got my containers here on the patio. Yeah, this area is looking sad this year, and some kitten damage, but also, I don't know, it just struggled. The 9 bark looks great. Tiny wine 9 bark with that beautiful purpley green foliage. This hosta is looking a little burnt now. This is Fragrant Bouquet. That'll definitely need to be reduced in the spring. This poor phlox just had fungal issues. That's another opening act phlox, which typically are not affected by a whole lot of fungal issues, but I have some older phlox that have issues right nearby, so I bet they infected that one. Lamb's ear, looking great, as always. I do, and the moneywort, actually, I need to come in here and pull it out. I try and pull it out every year and contain it. It spreads so fast, but I try to keep it under control every single year and stay on it to keep it from spreading so much. So I need to do that. Now that the kittens have been on the porch for a week, I can actually get in here without terrorizing them. That was kind of their hiding spot. The dogwood's starting to go over as well. This is the Garden Glow variety. Will get cut back quite hard next year. We've got one random extra bloom here on the lady's mantle. And the other hostas. This one is a mystery hosta. It was labeled as guacamole. I'm thinking maybe it reverted to one of the parent plants of guacamole. I don't know. But the kittens also like to play and wrestle in here, so you can see some bare spots. Another autumn frost hosta, and then let's see if that one goes in there. See how they just like shove themselves in the flower. They're kind of hiding, you can't even see them in there. Anyway, cute. Probably won't go up front just because nothing has changed and it's looking kind of rough still. I have some planting to do up there yet. But I'll do a separate video just with the container garden because that is still looking good. We've got a bunch of these golden scepter dahlias about to sprout. Got all budded up. It gets more shade here than probably it likes, but I think the soil condition is much better than out back. So I'll be doing a little dahlia patch here next year. This one did pretty good. These were all from last year. Same thing with the blue boy. Decorative dahlia stays a little bit shorter back there. And then these, I don't know what all of these are, but I see some buds opening. That might be another blue boy there. We've got had extra seeded snapdragons, and then these are sunflowers that self-seeded from the bird feeders that weren't in the way of the lawnmower, so they got to grow. The bees really love them. I'm hoping we get some seeds to feed the birds as well, and the squirrels. So, all right, that is it for the backyard tour. Stay tuned for part 2, just a container garden tour. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe.